Ready, set, art. So this one is showing how to do a rough draft for the cubism animal. And let's review the cubism animal a little bit. You're going to take a regular animal drawing and then change it to cubism. Cubism, the simpler definition is like taking a box and flattening it to see all sides. So in some cases it is regular geometric shapes like this one here and here. In other cases it still looks like a box, right? And that's what we should see in the rough draft. There's some challenges and I will go over that as well. I also want to see some geometric kind of gridding in your background. Other cool little things you can do is not always have a line. I'm going to show that. So for example, look, here's a box, and then here it feels like I should have a line here, but when I was starting to draw it out, I realized it was too many lines. And you're going to face that as well. Some of the drawings you're going to think, that's just too much. And you could take those lines out. And then there's other cases where you can slightly draw the line and let it fade out like I did here. And that works as well too. So I'm going to show you how I did this. Okay. I had one sketch ready to go. So the first thing you need to do is to go ahead and sketch the animal normal, right? And I did have a photo that I worked from for it, but I'm just going to go do this kind of quickly. That's the rear, the chest, okay, leg, okay, almost there. It's almost like a stick figure version that I'm doing, with the exception of the head. I try to put that in. I'm using all those circular qualities that we normally do when we're drawing. All right? Okay. Almost there. So again, I'm just trying to show quickly how to do this. Here's another joint. You can see I use circles to indicate that some of the more circular areas. Okay. All right, so here's my main sketch. Now it's time to change it into more of a cubism look. I think I'm going to start with the neck. So I'm just kind of changing it into kind of weird random shapes. And you could see I try to change it up. It doesn't have to be completely square in every area. I get to the front of this leg, and this one does look more three-dimensional. Now I could add a line here, but I realized later on when I was drawing that was too many lines, and so what I did is I drew a line kind of partially down. That works too. Alright, I'll just show you how sometimes you could just change it up before I go to my main sketch. You can exaggerate a little bit, and that's okay. It's okay to exaggerate. Okay, look how I handle the foot. I kind of just put a line there in a little box, and I don't put every line in. You don't have to. And as I was doing this one, I thought that line shouldn't be there, so I just let it partially go over. And I could keep going, but I think I want to show you where I take it to. I get it to this point, and right now, that's a lot of line work. Like, how are you supposed to color after that? How are you supposed to color after that? So what I do is I go ahead and erase the lines I don't need. I don't need these lines, okay? And I could keep going, but you would get the idea that you need to get rid of most of your lines. And then you could do something called a graphite transfer. So I'm going to show you graphite transfer. It's really easy. So now we have our main piece, and I'm going to shade the back side. This is when this type of pencil works better. Mechanical pencil is kind of a pain because then you're like this, right? And when you use a regular pencil, it's a little easier. I'm just going to shade one portion for right now because you would get the idea that you need to shade the whole back side. Okay. That's just the rear. Let me try the face too. All right, shade, shade, shade. Graphite is really a combination of clay and graphite. Buying pure graphite would be a little expensive. Okay, so then you get your main paper that you're going to draw onto with all your colors. And it would help to have a little piece of tape. You could tape the edge so it doesn't move on you. So essentially, there's graphite on the other side of this paper, and I just press like this, retracing my drawing. And when I lift it, it transfers my image onto the other paper, and then I don't have to deal with all those extra little sketches from before. And that's a good, clean way of doing it. Normally I don't recommend that, but for this type of project, because there's so much aggressive drawing to try to figure out the cubism part, that you end up having too many lines and to have to erase. So once you figure out your sketch, erase the excess lines, graphite, put it on top of your main paper, retrace, and then you can have a nice clean drawing to start coloring in. As a final piece, you're going to do lots of gradation. Gradation is when you put down a base color and then you fade with the other color. So in this case, I put a light orange all the way to each edge as a base. And then I took a medium orange and started fading in. And you can see it's more linear. I was trying to follow what we normally see in Cubism art. There's a lot of line texturing, so that's what I did, but I tried to keep it as even as possible. And then a darker orange. And then I went in with a shadowing color. Please do not use black. Do not use black. It's going to mess it up. Why? Because when you have a strong variation in color, black has a tendency to make it so that your eyes look right there first. So use other shading colors. I used purple and turquoise, and in some cases blue, in some cases brown, sometimes gray. So try something else other than black. I love alternative color choices. Look at my background. I did blues, but then I went back with fluorescent green and some orange to change it up. It's the same in the face here. I did mostly yellows with some oranges, and then I went back in and did some blues. I love doing cross-hatching in these type of pieces, so there's little cross-hatch marks. What does that mean? That means that I went back with some color and I kind of did some little cross-hatch lines here and there to go with the texturing. It's probably most prominent in my background where I did it, and some in here as well. It's great for shading, great for shading. So for your rough drafts, I want to see one rough draft because it does take a while to figure out how to translate that animal. You want to take a strong looking animal and then change it into that cubism form and add a background. Let me see the background of how you're going to do it. And notice how big I made my animal. Sometimes students will draw where the animal is like kind of small, and then I have this big background to look at. The main object is the cubism animal, so it should take up most of the piece. The other thing I noticed is a lot from the side. So this is a side profile of an animal, right? That's the side profile. Try to think about the dynamic of it. Is it coming at you a little bit? Is it changing angles? Could the head simply change and look at us? Right? So consider how to change the angles. Thank you for watching.